Hello. So, Bulgaria. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear this country's name? Some will think roses. And no, actually some will think probably home or workplace. But in the world, Bulgaria is best known for its Rose Festival and several of its rose products manufactured here that you may actually find in your gift bag if you look for it. So, anyway, if we were to Google something along the lines of Bulgarian roses being picked or Bulgarian Rose Festival, we'd see something like this image behind me. Pretty Bulgarian girls in national clothing picking roses and dancing and whatnot. But what about the people that get cut out of the frame? They have gathered many names along the years. Zingari, Gitani, or Gitanos. Overall, it's the Roma people. But you probably know them by their most popular and yet most offensive name, gypsies. And their way of work is way less pleasant than our friends from the Google images. Now, I'm going to paint a realistic example for you. A family of 9 goes out into the rose fields on an early June morning at 5 a.m. Some of them aren't even wearing the appropriate clothing for this time of day, which results in the cold dew stinging at their feet. Now, the oldest members of the family are working as hard as they can, while the middle ones watch over the smaller ones. Now, imagine just a bunch of families just like this hypothetical one, and that's what a normal day in the rose field looks like. Now, why would they commit to this themselves, to such back-breaking work? Well, that's because around 60% of the Roma income during a year is from the Rose Festival. They get paid 4 kilograms of rose leaves, and they have to work as hard as they can just so they can get that one extra level. Now, you might be asking yourself something else. Why are their kids working? Well, that's because their kids are mature enough to understand that their parents are in a very bad financial situation, and they want to help them in any way possible, be it working, even though they have to skip valuable education time. This calls on for a very, very vicious cycle, but more on that later. Now, I'm pretty sure everybody in this room realizes that there are certain financial issues with every single country in the globe, and that's fine. But this isn't a financial issue. This is a social one. You see, the Roma can be classified as precariats. Precariats are a lower class of society that can't keep a stable job because either they can't because of their poor education or they don't want to because they don't think they have to. That calls on for some more uneducated middle-class people to be saying things like, oh, these gypsies, they're taking all of our government's money, or they're getting government help, but we deserve it more. By the way, those are some actual things that I've heard just going around Sofia. And that shouldn't be expected from an urban city, which Sofia is, but you can imagine that in a rural area, the situation might be much worse. We're going to look into that later. Now, me and my family went to Rosino, a town, more to the rural side of Bulgaria. And this is the type of houses we found the Roma to live in. Unfinished, unclean, they have no heating, no water, and in most of them, no electricity. Now, that might not sound that devastating, but you can't fully comprehend that until you, as I have witnessed myself, see a family of 8 leading a horse inside their 4-by-3 meter house just so they can get the warmth of the horse's breathing for a cold winter night. Also, another problem that they have is that their houses, they can't afford land in the city. So they have to build their houses illegally out on the outskirts of the city. That means that they have no sanitation. Since, as I've already mentioned, they have no water source and they have to share a common one, that means that the water might get contaminated. And exactly this happened. Now, I want you to think to yourself, how much So the world percentage of hepatitis B patients is from 5 to 10%, somewhere around there. Now, how much do you think of the Rosny population is actually infected with hepatitis B? 25%. That's almost 5 times as much as the normal world percentage rate. Also, I want to answer a question that you might have asked yourself earlier. Why do they have so many children? Well, that's because their children play certain roles. The first one is that they help their family, or the most grown-up members of the family, the kids, they help their parents as much as they can just so they can get some extra income. After they grow up, they go on to have families of their own, and they do the same thing with their children, while the middle and the smaller children grow up and help their parents the same way that their older brothers and sisters did. Now, their second role is that the parents get government money for every child per month. They get a measly 36 leva, but these 36 leva mean the world to them. That means that they might sustain their family for just one more week, just get food, get electricity, get anything they need for survival. And as I've said earlier, that calls for a vicious cycle. Since the kids are working, they're missing valuable education time. And that's the biggest issue with the Roma. If they can get the possibility to get the education that they so desperately need, they will be able to, get a stable job, get medical insurance, provide for their families, anything they can. I've just told you the living conditions of the people that pick your roses. Now you tell me what that rose smells like. Thank you.